All right, friends, ladies and gentlemen, a formal welcome to Daily Power Parsha. Today is Monday, April 19th, 2021. And we're going to start a brand new Torah portion this week, which I'm going to share with you right now. And the Torah portion is Acharei-Kedoshim. Yes, we have another double portion. Look at that. We just came from Tazria Mitzora, a double portion, and we have another one this week, Acharei-Kedoshim. So let's jump in.
Rabbi, excuse me, I know it might be a naive question, but how does it get to be a double portion, and is there a significance?
Fantastic. No, it's a great question. So the short answer is that when a Jewish year is not a leap year, what that essentially means is that there are only, let me try to think about this. So the lunar year is only 354 days, and the lunar month is 29 and a half days, which means a little over 4 weeks, as opposed to in the Gregorian calendar, the secular calendar, it's 30 or 31, it's 30 and a half days, 30 days or 31 days. What is it, 30 and a quarter days per month?
28 to 31.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, either way, the point is that the Jewish year, when it's not a leap year, is a little bit shorter, just in general, number one. And number two, a lot of Saturdays, you're reading holiday readings. For example, Passover. When, like this year Passover, there was a Shabbat where you didn't read the normal Shabbat reading, the order of the Torah portions, you read the special holiday related reading. Same thing is true when other holidays fall out on Shabbat. So you kind of have to, and there's 53 Torah portions. So you have 53 Torah portions trying to condense into, let's say, 48, 49 weeks, minus all of those that have holiday readings. So you got to double some up. That's basically the short of it. Now, when you have a Jewish leap year, you add an extra month, which is 4 extra weeks, in which you have some more leeway with the Torah portions, and you don't have as many doubled up. So that's kind of the short idea of why there are double Torah portions. Hey, Matt, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Love the blue skies. It feels so crisp. All right, so let's jump into our reading. We have a double portion, Acharei-Kedoshim, and as you'll see, it references Acharei means after, and it's a reference to the passing of Aaron's 2 sons, which we read about 2 weeks ago. Leviticus chapter 16, verse number 1. And the Lord spoke to Moses after, that's Acharei, that's the name of the portion, after the death of Aaron's 2 sons, when they drew near before the Lord and they died. And the Lord said to Moses, speak to your brother Aaron, that he should not, the high priest, that he should not come at all times into the holy, within the dividing curtain, in front of the cover that is upon the ark. That means to go into the Holy of Holies, that inner chamber within that temple, the tabernacle building, in which is the Ark of the Covenant with the tablets. That tell your brother that he should not at any time just go in there, so that he should not die. In other words, if he goes in there just willy-nilly, that is a fatal choice. That's a fatal action. Why? God says, for I appear over the ark cover in a cloud. In other words, this is my space. You are not allowed to go in whenever you so choose. There's only one context in which Aaron, the high priest, was allowed to go into that holiest of chambers, where the ark was. And here's the context. With this shall Aaron enter the holy, with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a bull offering. Okay, before we continue, when can Aaron enter the holy? On the holy day of Yom Kippur. That's the only day a year in which the high priest can enter the Holy of Holies. So you had a confluence of 3 things that were holy, or the holiest. The holiest person, the high priest, entering the holiest space, the Holy of Holies with the ark. On the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, only when you have all three factors, the high priest, Yom Kippur, and the Holy of Holies, it's only then that all three can come together. But if it's not a high priest, no good. If it's the high priest, but not on Yom Kippur, it's no good. So you need all three to come together to make it happen. So when does Aaron enter the holy? On Yom Kippur with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Let's continue. Verse 4, he shall wear different garments. Yom Kippur, when he's doing the service in the Holy of Holies, he does, or in general, the Yom Kippur service, he does not wear the gold garments. If you recall a few weeks ago, several weeks ago, we spoke about the wardrobe of the high priest. Remember how much gold there was, gold threads? No gold on Yom Kippur. Do not remind God of the golden calf. Stay far away from any gold mentions or references. So when serving on Yom Kippur in the Holy of Holies, he wears pure white linen. That's why many have accustomed till today on Yom Kippur to wear white. It's a throwback to the high priest. He shall wear a holy linen shirt, not holy like, oh man, I should probably get a new one, but holy as in special for the occasion. Holy linen shirt and linen pants shall be upon his flesh, and he shall gird himself with a linen sash. It's all white, a white shirt, white pants, white belt, and wear a linen cap, a white linen cap. These are holy garments, and therefore he shall immerse himself in water and don them. And that means, again, I just want to specify, and this is something that might be confusing, but I feel like I need to mention it. On Yom Kippur, there was a special sacrificial service for the Day of Atonement, but there was also the normal daily service. Every day there were animals brought as an offering on the altar. That didn't stop on Yom Kippur. The daily offerings were done, and then he segued into the high priest segued into the special Yom Kippur service. Does that make sense? So he did the regular stuff plus the extra service. When he did the regular service, he actually wore the regular garments with gold. But when he segued into the Yom Kippur atonement service, he took off those garments, dipped himself in a mikveh again, and put on the new white linen garments for that service. He went to mikveh multiple times before he wore the normal garments, then he switched into the white garments, and then switched back to the gold garments, and switched back to the white garments. There's multiple times that he went to mikveh, to the ritual bath in the temple, or adjacent to the temple, when he would do the service and switch the garments. Back inside, I'm going to share my screen with you. Now, so he brings a young bull and a ram for a sin and bull offering, respectively. He wears the white linen. Now, verse 5, and from the community of Israel, from the community of the children of Israel, he shall take, so another offering. So he brings an offering on his own behalf, on behalf of the priest, but on behalf of the community, he takes the following: 2 he-goats as a sin offering and 1 ram as a burnt offering. And these 2 goats, by the way, had to look identical. We'll see that. I don't know if we have that exactly in here, but that's the way our sages understand. And Aaron shall bring his sin offering bull, that's the first thing, for himself, and initiate atonement for himself and for his household. And he shall then take, I just added the word then, he shall take afterwards the 2 he-goats that were identical and place them before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So again, in that outdoor space. And Aaron shall place lots upon the 2 he-goats, 1 lot for the Lord and the other lot for Azazel. So there was a box that had 2 wooden or golden, I don't know what you would call them, pieces, with the words engraved on them or written on them. One said Lashem, to God, and one said Lazazel, to Azazel, which was sent away to the mountain. So 1 goat was brought as a sacrifice, so 2 identical goats, and there were lots drawn. 1 was sent to One was sacrificed to God in the temple, and the other one was sent away to the mountaintop to Azazel. And that was to effect atonement for the people. Verse 9, and Aaron shall bring the he-goat upon which the lot for the Lord came up and designate it as a sin offering. So the one goat that got the lot for God, for the Lord, that was a sin offering in the temple. And the he-goat upon which the lot for Azazel came up shall be placed while still alive before the Lord to initiate atonement upon it and to send it away to Azazel into the desert. So it's first, there's some ritual done, but it's sent away to Azazel, to the desert, to the wilderness. And Aaron, which by the way is symbolic, right? When it comes to improving our behavior, right? It's Day of Atonement. When it comes to improving our behavior, there's certain things, certain traits that can be redirected to God, sacrificed or offered to God. Yeah, I was passionate about such and such, but now I've turned that passion to holy things. But then there's part of our personality or part of our behavior or our behaviors that can't be redirected. They just need to be sent away, banished to the far reaches of the wilderness, right? Are you with me on that? Yeah. Certain energies can be redirected. Certain energies need to be sent away. Let's continue with the high priest service on the day of Yom Kippur. He shall take a pan full of burning coals from upon the altar, from before the Lord, and both hands full of fine incense, and bring it within the dividing curtain. That means into the Holy of Holies. And he shall place the incense upon the fire before the Lord, so that the cloud of the incense shall envelop the ark cover. Remember that place that he was not supposed to go? Well, Yom Kippur, he's supposed to go there. And he brings a shovel or a pan with fire, with burning coals from the altar, and then puts the incense, rubs incense on it. It fills with smoke. A cloud of incense smokes inside the Holy of Holies to envelop the ark cover that is over the tablets of testimony, so that he shall not die. If he doesn't do this, he would die. So he must do this service on Yom Kippur, bring the incense into the Holy of Holies. And he shall take some of the bull's blood. Remember, he offered a bull for his own atonement and his family's atonement. And he should sprinkle it with his index finger on top of the ark cover on the eastern side. And before the ark cover, he shall sprinkle 7 times from the blood with his index finger. He shall then slaughter the he-goat of the people's sin offering and bring its blood within the dividing curtain. And he shall do with its blood as he had done with the bull's blood. And he shall sprinkle it upon the ark cover and before the ark cover. And he shall effect atonement upon the holy from the defilements of the children of Israel and from their rebellions and all their unintentional sins. He shall do likewise to the tent of meeting, which dwells with them amidst their defilements, which means essentially the holy space and the tent of meeting, because of the proximity, because of the relationship with the people, the way we go is the way the holy spaces go. This expresses the profound impact that you and I have on the spiritual realms, right? So whatever we do, actions that we take are not isolated. Oh, it's a private action, private person, no big deal, no harm, no foul. It doesn't just affect us. Doing something in private, no one will know. It's not so simple, right? There's a spiritual continuum and spiritual connectivity that is absolutely affected by everything we do. And so thus it needs atonement, right? This affects atonement upon the holy. And the tent of meeting also needs atonement because it dwells with them amidst their defilements. As we go, so do the holy spaces around us. Verse 17. And no man shall be in the tent of meeting when he comes to effect atonement in the holy. In other words, no other person is permitted to be present when the high priest does his service in the Mishkan, in the Holy of Holies, in the tent of meeting on Yom Kippur, until he comes out. And he shall effect atonement for himself, for his household, and for all the congregation of Israel, which tells us a few very important things. Number one, I'm going to start from the end of this verse. If a person wants to benefit the other, Sorry, if a person wants to cleanse the other, step one is cleanse thyself. The order of atonement is himself, his household, and then the congregation of Israel. One has to first clean up one's own actions, and then one can help the other. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to be perfect before we benefit someone else, but there is this notion of not being, what's the word I'm looking for, hypocritical. And we're preaching, you do this and you do that. And meanwhile, in my own backyard, right, we have all these skeletons and all sorts of whatnot. The idea here is he first effects atonement for himself, then his household, and then the other. There have been many, many revolutions and many movements in society, whether political or social or spiritual, in which the leader demanded everything and anything from everyone else, but not from himself. You know, these like cults and sects where it's like, oh, if you want to be part of it, you have to give up all your possessions. But the leader is driving around in like 50 Rolls Royces. You know what I'm talking about? Yes? Yeah. That's not what we're talking about here. In other words, the high priest first cleans up his own backyard, his own household, and then he represents the congregation of Israel. All right. Okay, also verse 17, it says, no man shall be there when he offers the offerings. According to the commentaries and the mystics, it doesn't only refer to human beings, but it refers to the angels that are also sometimes called men. You know, angels can sometimes take the form of human beings as well. So no man, no human shall be in the tent of meeting also means no angels. Why? Because it's just the high priest and God. It's that perfect moment of connection between human and God to effect atonement for the Jewish people. No angels allowed. Beautiful, beautiful idea that even the angels can't stand in that space, cannot tolerate or cannot handle that level of just profound holiness that takes place on Yom Kippur in that space. Verse 18. And he shall then go out to the altar that is before the Lord and effect atonement upon it. He shall take some of the bull's blood and some of the he-goat's blood and place it on the horns of the altar around. I believe this altar is the inner altar that's inside the building, upon which typically the incense was brought. This day, the incense was brought inside the secret chamber before the ark. Yeah, Rashi clarifies. Which altar is this? This is the golden altar, which is before the Lord in the Heichel, in the temple building. Yeah. There you go. So essentially, this service took place in the inner chambers, the inner chamber and the innermost of the inner chambers. All right, let's continue. Verse 19, he shall then sprinkle some of the blood upon it, that altar, with his index finger 7 times. Actually, he would kind of like make like a whipping motion. And he shall cleanse it and sanctify it of the defilements of the children of Israel. And he shall finish effecting atonement for the holy, the tent of meeting, and the altar. And he shall bring the live he-goat. Hold on, before we get to the live he-goat. Understand this. I mentioned this before. He effects atonement for the holy, for the tent of meeting, and for the altar. Because, as I said before, what our actions affect the energy, the spaces around us. All right, and then let's continue. And then he shall bring the live he-goat. There were 2 he-goats that were identical in size, in color, in stature, everything. The first he-goat was slaughtered, and that was already, the blood was sprinkled, etc. Now we have the live he-goat that's going to be sent away to Azazel. He shall bring the live he-goat, verse 21, and Aaron shall lean both of his hands forcefully upon the live he-goat's head. It's called smicha, the samach. He leans on it and confess upon it all the willful transgressions of the children of Israel, all the rebellions and all their unintentional sins. So whether it's willful, whether it's rebellious, or whether it's unintentional, he says the vidui, the confession, and he shall place them, these sins, so to speak, on the he-goat's head and send it off to the desert with a timely man. A timely man means someone who's going to do this with alacrity, because the atonement for the Jewish people is not finished until this he-goat is sent away to Azazel, so it's done in a very quick fashion. The he-goat shall thus carry upon itself all their sins to a precipitous land, and he shall send off the he-goat into the desert. And Aaron shall enter in the tent of meeting and remove the linen garments that he had worn when he came into the holy, and there he shall store them away. And he shall immerse his flesh in a holy place, in the mikveh, and don his garments, the normal priestly garments with the gold. He shall then go out and sacrifice his burnt offering and the people's burnt offering. He shall effect atonement for himself and for his people. I might be wrong there. Let me just double check with Rashi about which garments he's wearing. Give me a second here. Okay. All right. I was a little bit wrong. Take a look. All right, here we go. Our rabbi stated that this is not the correct chronological place. They said this whole passage is in correct chronological order except for this entry. For this followed the performance of his burnt offering and the people's burnt offering and the burning of the sacrificial parts of the bull and the he-goat. Yeah, that's what threw me off. It's out of order. Which are performed outside the Holy of Holies with the Kohen Gadol attired in golden garments. Then he would immerse himself, sanctify his hands and feet with water from the washstand, remove them, the golden garments, and don his white garments. All right, basically what I told you before still stands, which is it's very simple to remember. Anything that was unique to Yom Kippur, he wore white for. Anything that would happen on a normal day or a normal holiday, you wore the gold garments. All right. So that's the first reading. Let's see what we have with the second reading, because today is Monday, which is day 2. I think let's conclude the discussion of Yom Kippur, which is another few verses. Here we go. Because then Leviticus chapter 17 is the middle of this reading, but it kind of starts a new topic. So let's continue our Yom Kippur day discussion. By the way, on Yom Kippur itself, when we say the prayers, the afternoon prayers, we actually include a recap. We recount the service that the high priest did in the Holy of Holies, in the temple on that day, and we go through it in all the detail. That's basically taken from these verses, as well as from the commentaries, the Mishnah, the Talmud, etc. All right, let's continue. He shall cause the fat of the sin offering to go up in smoke upon the altar, basically burns it on the altar. And the person who sent off the he-goat to Azazel, that person that sent the he-goat away, shall immerse his garments and immerse his flesh in water. And after this, he may come into the camp. So there's like this idea of mikvah here as well for the person that sent the he-goat away. And the sin offering bull and the he-goat of the sin offering, both of whose blood was brought to effect atonement in the holy. If you recall correctly, those bloods were sprinkled in the holy space. He shall take outside the camp, and they shall burn in fire their hides, their flesh, and their waste. So the parts of that sin offering bull and he-goat, whose blood was brought inside the Holy of Holies, or in the holy, so that shall be taken, the rest of it shall be taken outside the camp, and their hide, flesh, and waste is burnt in a fire. Let's continue, verse 28. And the person who burns them also gets impure a little bit, shall immerse his garments and immerse his flesh in water in the mikveh, and after this he may come into the camp. And all this, says the Torah, shall be as an eternal statute for you. Annual basis, this should be done. Now, we don't have a temple today, so today we don't do it. Although we read about it, we don't do it. But if there was a temple, we would be doing this as an eternal statute. In the 7th month, which is Tishrei, on the 10th of the month, which is Yom Kippur, you shall afflict yourselves. And you shall not do any work, neither the native nor the stranger who dwells among you, but it's a day of affliction. What does affliction mean? Our sages tell us, based on a very complex derivation from other verses and other contexts, affliction means no eating or drinking, no wearing leather shoes, no bathing or showering, no anointing with oils or perfumes or fragrances, and no physical intimacy. Those are the 5 prohibitions that take place on Yom Kippur. These are not just prohibitions, these are forms of affliction, right? Physical intimacy is beneficial. Bathing and showering, beneficial. Perfuming and creams and lotions and oils, beneficial. Wearing leather shoes, beneficial, although one could argue Crocs are as comfortable or whatever, but that's not going to get into certainly fashion, right? Fashionable luxury, leather seems to be at the top of that. And of course, eating and drinking is taking care of oneself and one's needs. On Yom Kippur, we afflict ourselves. No, we're not like, whipping ourselves with straps, but this is the idea of affliction is specific to these 5 areas. And just again, to clarify what I said about Crocs, the prohibition is to wear leather shoes. It's not like you have to wear sharp Lego inside your footwear or step, to afflict yourselves with pain. It's not what it means. It just means you can't wear leather footwear. You are allowed to wear other things. So you can wear comfortable sneakers that are made of synthetic materials. In fact, many would argue we should be going synthetic anyway today, which is, another conversation to be had. Parenthetically, I saw recently a car was announced, I forget which car, sort of a high-end car, and the seating is completely not organic leather or whatever they're calling it, vegan leather or something. There are different names for it. Yeah, is it vegan leather? Basically, pleather or vinyl or whatever we used to call it back in the day. I'm sure it's like more luxurious nowadays because technology keeps on improving, but nonetheless, that seems to be the thing. So that's kosher for Yom Kippur as well, as long as it's not leather. These are the ways that we afflict ourselves. For on this day, why do we do it? For on this day, God shall effect atonement for you, to cleanse you. Before the Lord, you shall be cleansed from all your sins. Yom Kippur is a day of atonement, and in order for that to happen, we cannot be checking the mirror, right? And, getting all fancied up and getting all physical and whatnot. It's not a day to focus on the body. For 26 hours, once a year, it's completely about the soul and about purpose and about connection with something higher. And that's the Day of Atonement. Day of Atonement means essentially at 1 mint. It's a day of becoming one with God. See that in atonement, there's 1 at 1 mint. It's a day of becoming one with God. And to do that, sometimes you got to cut ties, like a 90s song, cut ties with all the lies that you've been living in, right? You got to just cut ties with all that stuff. Let's continue. 31, it is a Sabbath of rest for you. So just like Shabbat is a day of rest, on Yom Kippur, it's also prohibited to do work. And you shall afflict yourselves. Second mention of affliction. God is really serious here. It is an eternal statute. And the Kohen, who is anointed or who is invested to serve in his father's stead, in other words, the Kohen Gadol, the Big Kahuna, this Kohen is the one who shall effect this atonement as the representative of the people. And he shall don the linen garments, the holy garments, the white garments. And he shall effect atonement upon the Holy of Holies, and he shall effect atonement upon the tent of meeting and upon the altar. I mentioned this already before because the Torah mentioned this, right? Even the spaces need to be cleansed. So the Holy of Holies, the inner chamber, the tent of meeting, the general inner building, and the altar, the altar. And he shall effect atonement upon the Kohanim and upon all the people of the congregation. So fellow priests need to be atoned for, and of course, the congregation at large. All this shall be as an eternal statute for you, to effect atonement upon the children of Israel for all their sins once each year. Achat bashana, once each year. Achat bashana can also mean it's the oneness of the year. Again, it's a day of reconnection, reunion, so to speak, between us and God. It's a day of becoming one with God once a year. It's a day of oneness, essentially. And he did as the Lord had commanded Moses. Who's he? Who did? Probably Aaron, the high priest, because it was up to him to fulfill all of these things. As Rashi says, i.e., when Yom Kippur arrived, when the first Yom Kippur, after the call about how to do Yom Kippur arrived, Aaron, he performed the service according to this order. And this verse is written to tell us about Aaron's praise, namely that he did not don those special garments of the Kohen Gadol for his self-aggrandizement, but rather as one who was fulfilling the king's decree. Thus he did as the Lord had commanded. It was free of any hubris, of any arrogance, of any sense of self-importance and self-inflation. It was completely about the cause. So in other words, when Aaron put on, you can imagine, when he opened up that box of that crisp linen those crisp linen garments, right? That, you get clothing, you order something online, you get it, you open it up. It's like in packaging that's meant to evoke a sense of luxury and honor and the cool factor, and you open it up and it's got that, it has that tissue paper. You know what I'm talking about, right? The little tissue paper with the sticker, and it says, crafted with love or something like that. And you open it up and then you take it out and you unfold it. And then you look at it and it's like, it's beautiful, beautiful garments. The high priest Aaron wore them per God's command, not because he was into high couture. Linen is all the rage this year. 2449, it's the year of the white linen. That wasn't the agenda. The agenda was completely to serve God. The fact that it looked marvelous was incidental to his service. What's the message for us? Serve God. It pays off. It leads to luxury on whatever level, spiritual certainly, but even physical, the blessings follow. But don't do it because of that. As it says in Pirkei Avot, which we recently started studying, we do it over the summer months. It says, Al tiyu ka'avodim, hameshamshem esarav almanas l'kabel pras. Do not be like servants who serve their master for the sake of receiving reward. Ella, rather, you ka'avodim hameshamshem esarav shelo almanas l'kabel pras. Rather, be as those servants who serve their master not for the sake of reward, but just for the sake of service. And this is the energy that we conclude today's read, well, at least where we're going to end off today's study with, the idea that Aaron, the high priest, served God completely altruistically, for the right reasons, not for himself, not for his own grandeur, not for his own glory. You can imagine stepping out in front of the people with those, I just imagine like white linen and like cool Ray-Bans. I'm kidding. He did not wear sunglasses, but he was rocking a very impressive look. It wasn't about that. It was about the service of God.
He didn't have the breastplate on, right?
He did not wear the breastplate when he was doing the Yom Kippur service. The breastplate had gold in it, interwoven, and I think the settings, the chains were gold. Correct. He wore a very simple attire. In fact, if you give me a moment, I believe I have pictures. Hold on. Let me find this. I believe I have pictures of this that I can share with you. Give me 1 second to open it. Okay.
So did the breastplate stay in the temple? When it wasn't in use?
Yeah. Oh, look what I have here. You're going to love this. Okay, the problem is it's sideways.
We can turn.
So I'm not going to rotate it because I don't know what that's going to do for the image. Not my image. That'll be awkward. We're literally not talking about image. So I'm going to share my screen with you, but you're all going to be like, All right. So just get your neck ready. Just like work it out. Yeah. Just get loose and limber. Some stretching. By the way, stretching is all the rage nowadays. All right. We're not going to talk about exercise trends. I think Tom Brady was helpful for that. Okay. I'm going to share my screen with ya. You guys see that?
Yes.
So that, yeah, I told you it's going to happen. There's everybody craning their necks. So top picture, 3 images. Top picture is high priest confessing over the bull sin offering. Okay. That's
Outside.
him like outside. Now that's not the Mishkan. 1 second. Let's clarify that. You see those majestic stairs and columns? That's later on, 1,000 years later in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, when they built an edifice of stone. Gorgeous, gorgeous edifice. So that was that. Inside up those stairs was that inner building chamber. They still had the same things, but instead of being covered with animal skins, it was an actual building of stone, like gorgeous stone. Okay, so that's that. The second picture is drawing the lots of the identical goats. Remember the 2 goats, the 2 he-goats? One lot, he's holding up gold lots. One says to God, one says to Azazel, for the sacrifice to be sent away. And again, you see him, that's a good shot to see the garments. Yeah, white, a white robe, white pants under there, a white belt, and a white hat. Who are the other dudes there with the red belt, you might be wondering? Those are the assistants. Why are they wearing red? Somewhere, I'm sure it says that somewhere. We didn't read it today, but I'm sure it's sourced somewhere. And then the last picture, which I love, this is my favorite, is the high priest in the Holy of Holies. This is live footage. In the Holy of Holies, that's the Ark of the Covenant with the cherubim, and he's got the fire pan of coals, and he's putting the incense on it, and up goes a column of smoke in the holy space. And he's barefoot. I don't know if you know that. He had to serve barefoot. It was a real thing. Stone floors, gets cold.
So where was the breastplate inside the holy?
I guess they stashed it somewhere. Yeah, they probably just put it into an office or a room somewhere.
Oh, it didn't have to be inside the...
No. Now remember, the very important, there was only one time a year that anybody was allowed foot in that place.
Oh.
So that was it. He came in with the white garments, he left.
So only Yom Kippur.
Only Yom Kippur, only for this service. Otherwise, he's a goner. The Talmud tells a story. I'm going to stop sharing just so that I could see everybody a little bit easier. The Talmud tells a story that at some point in Jewish history, toward the end of the Second Temple era, when Rome kind of was already controlling things on some level, Rome had influence already on the Jewish nation, on Judea, and there were people who would buy the rights to be the Kohen Gadol from Rome, because Rome, again, had some sort of say in temple matters. This was toward the end, before everything was destroyed. So for a while, there were high priests that were literally buying the job, even though knowing that they weren't either, I don't know if they weren't priests, but certainly they weren't worthy of it. If you have to buy it, then you're probably not worthy of it. And they would die. They would go in there and not make it out. But it was so incredible that they didn't mind. Imagine if you told somebody, I know they're selling tickets to Mars, right? Are they doing that?
But you can't come back.
Right. Imagine if they said, all right, Elon Musk or whoever it is, or Bezos or whoever it is says, you know what? We're going to go to the sun, but it's a one-way ticket. But you get to see something that no one's ever seen before. You don't think people would take it? People would. Yeah, you ask the question, why would you do that? I mean, it's suicide. For those moments, you get to see something that no one has ever, that very few have ever seen. That's it. And that speaks to, on some level, to corruption, but on some other level, to the yearning, the spiritual yearning that people have. That manifested itself then in a very corrupt way that led to their own deaths. But if you want to look at the positive, they wanted to see God. That's pretty positive. Right. Now it's about how you go about it, but that in and of itself, there's something to it. So all right.
Can I ask one question? So the commandment, so on Yom Kippur, God is atoning for the children of Israel. Is he doing that looking at the past, like the golden calf, or is he assuming that every year we're going to have more things to atone for?
Essentially be.
Be.
In other words, every year, and it's, by the way, it's not only once a year, every day in our prayers, there's a section of Vidui, of confession, where we say it's a shorter version than the one that we do on Yom Kippur, but it's a mini version, a summary version of various indiscretions that we might have done over the last, several hours. We do actually do it a few times a day, morning prayers and the afternoon prayers. So we do it twice a day, these confessional prayers. Oh, and at night by the bedtime Shema, so we do it 3 times a day. So every 8 hours or so, we do it again, and we believe that God atones at all times. But one day a year, it's this like big theme. That's like the mega theme. Yom Kippur itself brings the atonement because
for the community too, for the community, not just for the individual.
Correct. It's a communal thing. And it does so essentially because it's a day of connection, a day of oneness with God. So like, I've given this example many times. If you've been to my learner services on holidays or other contexts about holidays, this may sound familiar, but I'll just say it very quickly. So when let's say in a human relationship, somebody does something to hurt the other person, there's 2 ways to kind of apologize. One way is to apologize for the specific action or inaction, like, I'm sorry I did this or didn't do that or whatever. But then there's another way where a person says, you know what? I'm recognizing, based on what I did or didn't do, that I'm not as connected, I'm not as mindful of you, I'm not as thoughtful of you, I'm not as connected with you that as I need to be. And so I am committing to be more invested in this relationship and more committed and more, committed to you. And I'm here with you. And now, and I'm not going to be in that space where I'm not paying attention or I'm not sensitive, or I'm with you. I'm committing to be with you and to be locked in. That's a much better apology than the first one. Because like, I'm sorry I forgot your birthday. Sorry I didn't call when I was running late from. I'm sorry that whatever. Like those things are like, yeah, either you are or you aren't sorry. Who knows? It's going to happen. It's not going to happen again. But taking a look at, well, where did that come from? What's the root cause of it? And then addressing that, that's much more powerful. That's what Yom Kippur is about. It's like, yeah, we did do this, we didn't do that with God or the relation with God. But what's at the core? The core is God real to us? Are we in a real relationship with God? And that's what we focus on in Yom Kippur. So we neglect the body. It's not even neglect. We're not paying attention to the body, no distractions. It's just about soul and God. And we reconnect with that relationship, and automatically almost atonement happens. Because when the other person, getting back to our human example, when the other person senses that, yeah, you're legitimately reconnecting, then the other stuff is very trivial. The other stuff is trivial. It's not about the other stuff. It's about the reason why it hurts so much is not because of the little things, it's because of the deeper underlying cause of the little things. So when you address the underlying cause, you don't even have to mention the little things, right? They go away. All right, that's it for today. So what's the message? Connect. Don't wait till Yom Kippur. Connect. We can connect every day. Every day we have opportunities to reconnect, to plug in, and to remind ourselves of what's really valuable. All right, great to see you all. Joy and Donna and Matt, thank you for joining for DPP, and all of you listening and watching at home or on your mobile devices. Thank you for being here with us. One thing that I want to mention for this week is we are starting a brand new course, This Can Happen, which is a marvelous new course all about.
That's code to joy.
Oh my gosh, I have the wrong book. So awkward. Thank you for pointing that out. Why do these books all look the same? There we go. This Can Happen. Now we got the right book. Thank you. That was a faux pas. So This Can Happen, which is all about understanding where we're going. What's the destination according to Judaism? Where are we headed? Societally, globally, what's the end game and how do we get there? And it's not apocalypse. It's not like doom and gloom Armageddon. It's a better world, a healed world. How do we make that happen? And how have we been heading there? And historically, what does it look like? Lots of factors, lots of items that surround that conversation. It's going to be a fantastic course. I know that at least one of the lessons will be great because I authored it. Kidding. I'm not kidding about authoring it. But anyway, so join me for it. This can happen starting this Tuesday and Thursday online in person, April 20th, April 22nd. Be there or be nowhere. All right. Thank you. Good to see you guys. See you mañana. See you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.